is a public hearing, number 1, Tax Incremental Finance District. I will read the notice for that. Notice is hereby given that a joint public hearing involving the Town of Waukesha Plan Commission and the Waukesha Town Board will be held on Thursday, November 14th, 2019, beginning at 6:30 p.m. at the Waukesha Town Hall, located at W250 South 3567 Center Road. Such hearing shall also be for the purpose of considering the adoption of project plan for a tax incremental finance district in accordance with Wisconsin Statute 66.1105. The proposed plan includes projects that may include but are not limited to street improvement costs, financing costs, and other related costs. Project costs may also include developer incentives made by the town to owners, lessees, or developers of land within the proposed district. I'll declare the public hearing open at this time, and we're going to start, I believe, Christy, our consultant from Trilogy, is going to present some information here before we actually take public comments. So welcome, and please proceed.
All right, thank you. Yes, before we take comments, I just wanted to provide a brief overview of what tax incremental financing is and what the actual proposed plan is that the Plan Commission will be considering this evening. So first, just to talk a little bit about what is tax incremental finance. And basically, it's a funding or financing tool that local municipalities can use to pay for projects that could be infrastructure projects or development incentives or other types of investments within a specific district or area that are designed to help increase the property value within that area. So that's what we're referring to when we say TIF, tax incremental finance. A tax incremental district, or a TID, is actually the physical boundaries of that area, the specific properties that are included in the district that are benefiting from the improvements in the district. This is a simple diagram that just kind of intended to show how this works. So when a TIF district is created, there's a base value that's established. It's the existing property value at the time that the district is created. And the county and the school district and the technical college and the town would continue to collect the same property taxes on that base value as if there were no TIF district in place. But the idea here, and that's the area shown in blue there, the idea here is that as the town then invests in that district, property values increase as a result of that investment. That's shown as the purple there represents that increase in property value. And so taxes on that increased property value go into the TIF district fund that are used to make those improvements within the district. And the idea is that at the end of the district, once it's closed out, all of the taxing entities have higher property value and more tax revenue from that investment. So just want to mention too with that, the tax rates for properties within the TIF district are the same as any other property in the town. The revenue from it really comes from increase in property value, not any additional tax rates. There are many requirements under state statutes for establishing TIF districts, and I just want to hit on a couple of them, a few key ones here. One is that you have to show that the improvement in the district would not occur but for the investment of TIF revenues, and that's a real key one right there. The next two are kind of interrelated. You have to demonstrate that the benefits of doing the projects outweighs the costs and that the TIF district is economically feasible. And those two are interrelated because you want to make sure that the increase in property value and the revenues from that increase are at least as much, if not more, than the cost of what you're doing within the district. You also have to demonstrate that the project costs are directly related to the purpose of improving the property values within the district. And then finally, it has to be consistent with the town's master land use plan. So just to give you an idea of what we're looking at in some specifics for this tax incremental finance district, this map shows the location of the proposed district. So we're looking at a stretch of Sunset Avenue, the railroad tracks on the east, and then you've got Prairie Avenue and Center Road are the north-south streets there, as well as Industrial Lane. So this shows the current property uses within this area. So the properties shown in yellow are residential, The ones that are shown in that reddish pink color are zoned for commercial use, and then purple is for industrial. The next map that we have here shows the same area but with the planned land uses. So this district would be what's called a mixed use district, which means it contains a mix of commercial, industrial, and or residential properties. We're showing the industrial would remain zoned for industrial, and then that cross-hatched pink would be a mixed use that could allow either commercial or residential. So in terms of what would be done with this plan, as I said earlier, TID does provide a tool that the town can use to support improvements within a given district. So the kinds of things that we are anticipating the town would be doing within this district would be two kinds of things. One, potentially would be the reconstruction of industrial lane to a more urban type street with curb and gutter, similar to what it is south of that area within the city of Waukesha. And then the other key item in this plan would be development incentives for property owners or developers who want to do something with their property, either expand or improve their buildings or redevelop their properties. And this would be done as on a pay-as-you-go basis, meaning the town would not borrow for this. It would be a situation where once the property is improved and there are additional tax revenues, those would be used to make incentive payments to the property owner or developer. This is just an aerial photo of the area with the red arrows there showing the northern and southern kind of limits of where we would be looking at it with industrial land and doing that reconstruction. And as you can see from here, the portion of it that's in the town is much narrower, doesn't have some of those other amenities with it. So we'd be looking to use some of the TIF dollars to reconstruct it to a more urban cross-section. And then I just wanted to touch a little bit on how development incentives would work and the concept here. This would be a situation where it would entirely be at the request of a property owner or a developer that would come forward and have a proposal for a property and request assistance from the town through the TIF district. So that would be the first step. The town would have to evaluate that request and determine whether the project was in need of some assistance in order to go forward to meet that but-for test. And then they would also look at the financial feasibility of it to determine whether the proposed increase in property values and taxes from that project would be sufficient to provide the incentive that is requested. So if a proposal were to meet those two tests, then the next step would be for the town and the owner to sign a developer agreement that would lay out what was going to be done with the property and how much assistance would be provided through the TIF district. And then the next step would be for the owner to make the improvements to the property. Once it starts generating additional tax increment revenues, then the town would use those to make those incentive payments. So it reduces the risk to the town because they're not borrowing up money up front. It would just be as development occurs. So we looked at some pretty conservative estimates of additional property value that could be obtained in this area. And based on that, put together some estimated project costs. So for the reconstruction of industrial lane, we're looking at about half of that being paid for by the TIF district and half through the town's regular road improvement budget. And then about $1 million of potential development incentives that could be provided. And again, the amount and timing of all this really depends on when any specific properties would come forward. So this shows the the base value of the district and the projected increase in property values that we were building into this plan. So the dark blue is current property value in the district, $19.2 million. So again, taxes on that would continue to go to the county and the school district and whatnot. The light blue represents potential future increases in property value as a result of the town's investment in this area. And again, I think we're being conservative on this, but we're looking at about a 61% increase in property values, or about $11.7 million over time. And then this one just shows the revenues from that new property value. So this is the revenues that would go into the TIF district, and ultimately we're looking at at the current tax rates for all of the entities would generate about $140,000 per year of additional tax revenues. This is as part of this project plan. This kind of summarizes that, showing cash flow for the district. The blue bars are money coming in from tax incremental revenues or borrowing. The red bars are money going out for either debt service or development incentives. The big numbers in 2023 is when we are preliminarily projecting the industrial lane reconstruction may occur. The green line shows cash flow, so cash coming in minus cash going out. It would take a couple years for that to get started just because of the lag in development occurs versus when the town would actually tax it and collect those revenues. But what this does show is that that green line represents cash balance in the TID fund. But what this does show is that that number would be positive throughout the life of the TIF district, and by about 2038, project costs will be paid off and the TIF district could be closed. So we do believe this will be economically feasible. Just a couple of things to keep in mind too, I guess caveats about how all of this works is that, that adopting the project plan is the first step and it doesn't commit the town to any projects or expenditures. There'd be a number of other steps that would have to occur before any of that happens. Town budget process, developing development agreements, and all of the normal planning and zoning reviews that are required by the town. Again, any development incentives would be evaluated on a case-by-case basis to determine whether there's a need for it and whether it is feasible before anything would be approved. And again, actual expenditures and timing will depend on what projects are brought forward, and no one will be required to sell, develop, or redevelop their properties. This is strictly on a requested basis. And then finally, just want to touch on the process a little bit of adopting this project plan. Under state statutes, the town has to hold a public hearing, which we're doing right now, and then the Plan Commission adopts the project plan. And then the town board would be the entity that would have to create the district, and then the final step would be approval by the Joint Review Board, which has representatives from not only the town, but also the county and the school district and WCTC.
Okay, thank you for a very informative presentation.